All right. So welcome, Alan Cahn of Alan Cahn Consulting and faculty member of the Henley Leadership Group. Thank you, Alan, for being with us here today on WorkLiberated podcast. Why don't we start by having you share a little bit about who you are and what you do now? And then I really want to talk about how you got into this field in a minute.
Sure. Yeah. So who I am is I'm a almost 73-year-old white American. Not a great group to be a part of right now, but I am a part of that. And I've been married for, it'll be 44 years next week.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Have 2 grown children, 2 growing granddaughters. So I'm a family man. And, my mission in life is that all hearts are full and all beings are enlightened. And that's a mission that I attempt to live true to 24/7, even in my dreams. And what I do, besides enjoying life, is I enjoy my work, and I work as a coach, a consultant, a trainer. And, I want to give real props to you because I, probably 7 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, when I was just 1 or 2 years into running my own consulting business, you reached out to me and gave me an opportunity to work with a client of yours doing really some great work throughout the whole company in Iowa. And, you took a gamble and you took a bet on me, and it really helped to launch me into the next level of my own coaching and consulting. So props to you for reaching out to me when I was at an untested quantity.
Well, you weren't really untested. You might have been untested in the world of your own business. But
exactly.
For me, as many of you know, if you read the book, Ignite Culture, or just from knowing me, is my career was in executive search and more of organizational consulting. And my dream, I did the Landmark Forum in 1996, and in 1997, I did the advanced course, and that back then they took you to 20 years in the future, and 20 years in my future. I lived in Northern California, and I was working with CEOs who cared about their business and about their people. And I was in my dream, in my mind's eye, was creating mind, body, and spiritual connection with CEOs. And I was doing it in Northern California. And then through no plans of my own, I got into this business because the business I was in, I was starting a software company, transitioning from a search firm. And that software company blew up, which we're not going to talk about today, but it blew up. And I said to my coach, well, I need the money from the software company in order to do what I really want to do. And she said, why do you need the money? And I said, because nobody will pay for what I really want to do. I want to do that as like a volunteer. And then, I had no other choice. I was at a non-compete. I couldn't do anything to do with hiring. And I just put the word out there that I was doing organizational consulting and culture. And then I got this client in Iowa, and I needed some chops and some depth that I felt like I needed support with. And I reached out to Alan, and Alan and I took on over 500 people and made a huge difference in that company. And the truth is, the CEO, he was the general manager. He turned out to not be the nicest person, or not interested in living true. He was actually living completely inauthentically and doing bad things. And the employees started coming forth and saying, oh, this is not what you guys preach. This is not what you guys say. So we'd never renewed the contract on him.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. It was a big project, but the consultant who replaced us, which does not do transformational work, they teach information.
Right.
They said whoever was here before greased the wheels for us to do. It was easy for them, but every person on that management team has left but one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the disadvantage to waking up and doing cultural transformation. If you don't really do the work, then you've got a lack of integrity. But let's take a back step. So I met you because I was a Landmark seminar leader and you were a former Landmark program leader,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, I was a forum leader for and trained other forum leaders for 26 years,
Wow.
as well as being a senior executive and manager in the business side of the operation, as well as being on the program design side, helped design some of the programs that others delivered. Yeah.
So here we are, and it's about 2016.
Yeah.
And 30 years before you got into the business of transformation.
Yes.
How did you even know about transformation? How did you wind up? I've read the book, The Upstart Spring, but it didn't have your name in there.
Yep.
Werner's name was in there, but how did you get involved?
Yeah, so I got involved. I was a product of the 60s. I thought I was going to be an electrical engineer, and I went to MIT. And by the time I got to MIT in 1967, I was clear I wanted to work with people, not with things. Was also the times of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And so I was expanding my consciousness in all sorts of ways. I was at Woodstock.
You were?
By the time I graduated from MIT, I had helped start a restaurant, a cooperatively run vegetarian restaurant in Boston. And one day I attended a one-day Zen meditation retreat led by Philip Kapleau, who wrote the book, The Three Pillars of Zen. I invited him and his fellow monks to come and eat at our restaurant. And afterwards, he said, Alan, you should come live in the Zen monastery and be a chef there, a cook there. So I went to live in a Zen monastery. And that was the beginning of really being clear that somehow I was going to use my life to impact the quality of life for others. And when I did the S training in 1976, I went, that's it. So, worked there for 32 years. It evolved from S to the Forum to the Landmark Forum. And that was my path. When it became clear, like you became clear at that company in Iowa, that there were gaps between what was being said and how business was actually being conducted.
Yeah.
I left. So I left in 2014, was grateful for everything that I learned, everything that got contributed to me, all the opportunities that got presented to me. But it was clear that to stay there was no longer had integrity for what my purpose was and how I wanted to live my life. So I've been on my own for the last 9 years. I love, given the work we both want to see happen on the planet, it's going to happen by people working collaboratively together. I love working with like-minded people. And like you, I'm very picky about who I work with.
We have to be.
Companies will make more money, but there's plenty of coaches out there that will help you make more money. What I'm interested is, are they interested in the whole package? The staff, the customers, the environment, the community, all of them rising up, all of them benefiting. And if people are interested in that sort of work, that's a fertile ground for us to work in.
Yeah. So I thought it was interesting. I was doing something on Facebook and perusing, and I saw a picture of you with Richard Condon and
Scott Forgy and Anurag Gupta.
Anurag was there. And I'm in the autonomy course right now with Richard and Jeff.
Oh,
and
great.
So,
say hello to them for me.
I will. My calling is People Are Liberated. And, the whole format of that course is living true. And so it's been very, it's been a little confronting for me because it's true. Companies will call and they'll say, I really want to break through in culture, but then they'll behave the same way they've always behaved. They'll expect the employees to get better and the employees to change. But then sometimes the CEO, his or herself will not show up to the training, won't do the work. And then I have to make like a tough decision. I just promised 300, 400, 500, 1,000 employees. If we follow this process, everyone's life's going to get better. And then if they choose not to do it, then I got to scale back. But in the course of being in that class, I decided to go to Peru and go to the Temple of the Way of the Light.
Have you been already, or is that coming up next?
No, I just got back.
Oh, good.
So that was a very interesting experience. But one of the things that I got out of it was that all of us solopreneurs, is that what we're called?
Sure.
Solopreneurs or small businesses, that we really do need to build. And you said it, like there's a community of people out there that want to make a difference.
Yes.
And then, one of the presidents said it takes a village. I think it was the Clintons with raising children.
Yes.
I think it does take a village. And so what's your take on the whole, it takes a village? Because you were part of a village.
Yeah.
Landmark had 49 Landmark Forum leaders. And so what's your take on that? And how do you reconcile that now that you're a solo?
Yeah, it's really good. I don't consider myself a solo, but it's great. But I am in business sense. Number one, I have this image. I like simple pictures. I don't like complex theories. I think life is pretty simple and we make it complicated. And the image that I have is there's an evolutionary wave, and I am a bubble, a drop of water in this evolutionary wave. And so are you. And we are part of the same wave. And our job, should we choose to accept it, is to be the best bubble that we can be, whether you call it living true, living consistent with your purpose, following your calling, whatever you call it. It's about living true, that quote that we both enjoy, which is to thine own self be true, which is the ultimate form of integrity, living true to yourself. So what needs to be accomplished on the planet right now is not going to happen by a bunch of individuals. It's going to happen by folks working together collaboratively. I was just working with some leaders at Microsoft, and all they wanted for their senior leaders is for them to learn how to work collaboratively, because by design, we're organized around ourselves. Our brain cares about our survival. By design, by default, one could say. But if we're going to transform life on the planet, we're going to need to go against that design of our own ego, our own identity, and find like-minded people and multiply our efforts in that way.
Yes.
And it's challenging, as you know. It's so much easier to go in and work on your own than to deal with someone else who's got the same goal in mind, but they've got a different way of achieving it. But to learn how we can work together is really the lesson, I think, for all of us right now. I think that's a superpower, is collaboration, learning how to collaborate.
So have you read the book, The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton? Okay, so
I've been exposed to it, but I didn't read it.
It's a great read about what is happening on Earth right now. And one of the things that he really talks about, and I hope I don't get in trouble for paraphrasing, but that there's the whole Darwinism, which is the fit of the fittest, which is where our ego comes from.
Yes.
May the strongest survive. And then there's the genetics and the genes, like when the human genes were singular, we weren't humans. But when we became humans, they operated in cohesion with each other, in collaboration with each other. And that's how the human being was formed. And he said the same thing that you just said, is if we want to sustain life on this planet, we have to get in community. We have to get in community. And any way, any shape, anyhow.
And the Buddha said it, 3,000 years ago, I take refuge in the Buddha, which didn't mean the Buddha as an identity. It was like that consciousness. But I also take refuge in the Dharma, the teachings, and I take refuge in the Sangha, in the community. In the community. So when I'm working with people, and this is when Richard and I and Anurag were working together in what we thought was going to be something that we sustained, and we didn't, but in the difference engine, we talked about for sustainable change, there have to be it's a tripod. One, there's an intention, a desire, a wanting. Two, there's practices. But three, there's an environment that supports you taking those practices. And so for me, how I've sustained myself is I have about 10 people who I stay in communication with, either weekly, every other week, or monthly, to support each other in staying true.
That's great.
Yeah, because left to the capacity for self-deception with all of us is enormous. We can easily convince ourselves we're up to something where we're not, and other people, that's why they call it blind spots. Other people can see our blind spots before we can. Yeah. So you want to have a group of people that you trust, who you empower to call you on your stuff, and you can call them on. But it doesn't have to be hierarchical. It can be lateral.
Yeah.
Group of like-minded people who want to empower each other to fulfill on their mission.
Yeah, it's so powerful, because that is when I left. So in the autonomy course, we have the intent, the environment, and the architecture.
Yes.
And even in keen alignment, long before the autonomy, we always had the three legs of the stool, right? But, culture is environment and structure is architecture, and it's the life cycle of the human being's experience. Nothing is new.
Exactly. There is nothing new. There's new ways to say it, but it's not new.
but what I really got in Peru is, so there's 24 people that come together that don't know each other in Peru, and you're together 12 days. But what I really saw was a missing in my life.
Yes.
I have friends, and most of my friends that I am close with spend time in the world of transformation, which I would say the definition is looking in the mirror and peeling away everything that isn't what our intention is.
Good.
But I don't. So while I have friends, I don't have this community that I work with.
Yes.
And I don't have the coalition of transformational professionals. I did find out that Jack Canfield, which I wouldn't even love Jack, but I wouldn't consider him in the same realm of the kind of work that I've been doing, even though I did take his class. He's got the Transformation Leadership Council.
That's right.
Which is like hundreds of people that do transformational work. And I just think there needs to be more community-centered places and groups like the autonomy group, where people could work together and experience the power of tribe, especially for the sake of the planet, the climate, the raising children, you name it. Yeah. It's a lonely world alone.
I agree with you 100%. And, I want to offer, like I say, I'm indebted to you. I just want you to be clear about that. I am indebted to you.
Well, I don't want you to be indebted to me.
Not in a bad way. I'll state it differently. Then I'm grateful to you for the contribution that you made.
I could take that.
Great.
You're welcome.
And should there be, if you feel like there's a resonance here, if we just checked in, not on recording, but checked in once a month and empowered each other in what we're up to and what we're seeing and what we're learning and how we're applying what we're learning. Anyway, so that's an offer that's on the table. Yeah,
thank you. And what do I want to say about that? Also, Alan, you also contributed to me. I had not done large group. The client didn't know, but now who cares?
Exactly.
I had not done a group that large.
Yeah.
And I know how to do a seminar of 200 people who've already done the landmark forum and already know about blind spots and already have a possibility, and they just want some tune up. But I didn't know how to do that. Now, since then, I've done hundreds of programs and they've all been very successful. But the thing that I face now, and I think many people do, is if you're aware and awake,
Yes.
and you're paying attention to the climate,
Yes.
to global politics,
Yes.
to the world and the hatred and the ego drive and the fit of the fittest and disease and population, like you could really get overwhelmed by the volatility, uncertainty, chaos, and ambiguity in the world. What advice would you have? Many of our watchers and listeners, they want liberation. They think it has something to do with freedom or autonomy or empowerment. But many of them read and they learn through reading, and they haven't done large group personal awareness training or transformational programs. What advice would you give? You know, you started in the age of Woodstock. We are not in the age of Woodstock. We are in a similar state. But I think there was more hope in the 60s and the 70s.
There definitely was. That was a hopeful time. It was a hopeful era. Yeah. If you listen to the music of those days, you know, it was hopeful. And, you know, I shy away from advice, but I'm going to address what's underneath the question. You know, one of the people that I've read most since leaving Landmark is a man named Otto Sharma, who has Theory U, the letter U. And he studied with Peter Senge at MIT. He is dealing with individual, organizational, cultural, and societal transformation. And he says, you know, he uses a U, the shape of a U. You know, he says we're coming down the U right now to the bottom, to the nothingness, and then we're going to come up on the other side. And what we see is, on some levels, the disintegration of structures. In some places, we see dark forces, dark clouds gathering, and we also see little pockets, little rays of light where new possibilities are emerging and taking root. You know, this whole thing about stakeholder capitalism, where people are realizing, capitalism's okay to a certain degree, but you need to change the focus. It can't just be about profit. It has to be about everybody wins. Everybody wins, not a you or a we solution, rather than a you or me solution. So for me, you know, I'm a little older than you, so I've got less time probably on the playing field than you do, but I still am taking a long view. You know, what's that quote about the arc of justice? It bends. It's a long arc, but it's bending in the right direction. Now, that might just be false optimism, you know, false hope. You and I won't know, you know, but I choose to align myself with people who have a vision of what's possible and are making that happen. And then all there is what am I going to do today that's going to move things closer to the way I'd like? What I'm going to do in this next interaction. In this next interaction, not some grand global thing that is.
Esther Hicks calls it segment intending.
There you go. In every single interaction, am I living true to that purpose?
Yeah.
By the way, I don't know if you knew, after I spent that time with you in 2016, I went to Peru, same place that you went to in 2019.
Oh, you did? Oh, that's awesome.
I spent 10 days there. Yeah.
So the Temple of the Way of the Light.
That one right there.
So here's a guy who spent 30 some years in the world of transformation, developing curriculum. What did you learn that you didn't know in Peru?
You know, it wasn't a learning like that. I went with a specific intention. And, you know, the intention that I went with is I noticed I was constrained by wanting people to see me in a particular way. And when people saw me in a judgmental way, and they were ascribing motives to me that I thought were not accurate, it would impact me. I wouldn't just go, oh, that's just, they're wrong. It would impact me. And I wanted to be free In my heart, yes. I wanted to be free of that attachment to what other people were thinking about my motives when I knew my motives were pure. So that was the intention that I went to fulfill. That did happen with the help of the plants. And, you know,
the Iquitos.
I would tell people, if I just had the dieta and spent 10 days in the jungle with no plant medicine, that might have been transformational.
Yeah.
If I just hung out with the Icaros, that might have been. But the all four aspects of being there: the diet, the people, the location, the plant medicine.
The flower baths.
The flower bath, exactly. It was a powerful experience. It was a way of letting go, a way of completing something. I got more grounded and centered in my purpose. I worked through some issue that was existing in my brain about me and Richard.
Oh, good.
Completed a whole chapter without him even being there. It was a powerful experience.
Yeah. So for me, I went there because Richard and Jeff, they didn't tell me to go, but they were sharing their experience.
Yes.
And I had done an ayahuasca journey in Sedona last year with a guy by the name of Johnny Coyote. Uh-huh. And Johnny had studied in Peru, but he was not a shaman, right, in the way that the Shipibo people are shaman. Yeah. And it was a good experience. And I got to see like my dad die even when he was alive, like his spiritual death.
Yes.
But this time, and I agree with you, the dieta, the 12 days, I ate clean for 8 weeks. And
before, during, and after.
Yeah. And then there's so much free time. So I read this book called The Presence Process. If you haven't read it, they now recommend that reading. It's by Michael Brown, and it's powerful. And so I'm going to do a whole group with people that I'm friends with and say, come on, you guys, let's take our presence to the next level. Beautiful. And then at the same time, I read Bruce Lipton. But what I got to is that even though I love my work, my work is not the primary reason I'm here. Good. The primary reason I'm here is to love.
Beautiful.
And
that so true. That rings so true.
Yeah. And then I went back in time to my own child. Yeah. And then to my little sister as a child, and then me and her as a child. And like, I don't know what will happen in the quantum, but in what I went through, I went back and healed the past. Beautiful. And so many things are starting to open up. And then my final 2 nights, all my past blew up and disintegrated into a million pixels. And then I think we were talking about it on this call, but like all the skin just came off of me. And I did get in the Landmark Forum that it's empty and meaningless, and it's empty and we are creating from nothing, but I never got it on the solar and cellular level. Yeah. Yeah. I did this time.
The work that I've done since you and I met it's all about embodied transformation. A lot of the work that's out there is intellectual transformation. And if it doesn't get into your heart and it doesn't get into the cells of your body, it doesn't stick. Right. It's something you and I can talk about, like an experience, like we went to Disneyland, but it doesn't it doesn't get integrated. And so a lot of work I've done since then is somatic work. How do you ground things in those experiences in your heart and in your body so that it's sustainable rather than just a blip? Yeah. And the other thing that stayed since Peru is, and I think you had this, I didn't have it, I grew up in New York, was just an appreciation of nature.
Yes.
You get a different relationship to plants, to rocks, to insects, an appreciation that we're part of something. And it's not about us dominating and finding our place and paving over, but an appreciation of the natural world. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I did another podcast earlier, and that woman, I've been coaching her for 12 years.
Yes.
She runs an open space, many acres, and hundreds and thousands of acres of open space preserve. And we were talking about that. How do we get people to see their place in the natural world?
Yes.
And it seems like no matter what I'm reading, any kind of spiritual text from the beginning of time, and even now coaching text from recent, everything is connecting us to nature. And if we just go out of our house, and if we just check out a tree, or we walk to the beach, or we go to the forest preserve, that we will access a different part of ourselves.
Totally. How long ago when did you get back from Peru?
February 10th.
Oh, so that's like 4 weeks ago. Yeah, a little under. You still have a glow.
It might be the lights, but
no, you still have I'm not talking about the one you see with your eyes. You still have a glow.
Well, and one of my goals is starting Monday. I have 2 wine events, meaning not where I'm whining, but drinking wine with family. Yeah. But I'm going to actually eat clean and get myself back into the dieta stage for 10 weeks and really see what else I can learn about myself and my contribution. I mean, all of this, when I think about working liberated, and I think about the work you do and I do and Richard does and Jeff does and even Anurag and Scott, ultimately the purpose is so that we can all be a contribution.
You nailed it.
People can be a contribution. And so what does a 73-year-old guy work on?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I just started a class, a course today. What's it called? Whiteness in the workplace.
Oh, so, whiteness
in the workplace. Yes. DEI work. So, what I'm working on is that whole thing of privilege that, I never looked at life through that lens. But, what is it, and how do we make how do we bring justice to the workplace? So that's one of the things I'm at work on. What I work on is being present. There's no, will be the work till I take my last breath. I want to die present to that moment that's in front of me. So, so my wife and I have a meditation practice that we share. I work on enjoying life, being of service. I got this phrase from Anurag. I don't know that he invented it, but he was the first person I heard it from. At any moment, we're either being a consumer of life or a contributor to life. So I'm at work on being reliable for being a contribution.
Yeah. And I have heard that too, but I heard it from a different group of guys.
Yes.
And it's very confronting to think about how much of a consumer I am with my flights, going to see my grandchildren, taking them on vacation, buying things. And it's really important for me to make sure that's balanced. Yeah.
That's interesting that you reminded me of one other thing that I'm at work on. So I'm at work on my legacy. And for me, my legacy is the next generation of coaches and consultants out there. So I'm at work on giving everything away that I've been given, that I've either learned or been given or had beat into me, so that it lives in the next generation and that they're improving on it. So, I'm not a book writer, although I am starting to take becoming part of a writing group so that can come a little more natural to me. But it's really about how do I leave behind everything that I've been given so that it lives on in the next generation of coaches. So I'm working with a bunch of coaches who are in their 30s and 40s and contributing to them to accelerate their learning curve.
Yeah. Well, we need it. the world needs, and everybody and anybody who's managing people needs
Yes.
training and development. There just is no substitute for that.
Yes.
So last couple questions.
Sure.
First one is, how do you stay courageous
Yeah.
for the big cause, for the healing of the planet and the healing of the people on the planet?
I don't know whether it's genetic or karmic or what it is, but for me, I don't believe in retiring. I'm refiring. I don't retire. I refire. It's like the engine. I stay young by looking for where I can contribute, and each day for me is an opportunity to live true to my purpose, and that I don't have to work on it. I really don't. Having conversations with people, is an opportunity to be a contribution. So I don't have to get my game, face on or, a game head on or, for me, the game is being alive. And as long as I'm breathing, there's an opportunity to be courageous, to be at risk. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then the last and final question is, if somebody's just entering into this world of wanting to be awake, and I know before we talked about the Zen, the Zen Buddhist, is there any class like that you would recommend for the people that are testing the waters, not sure what to do, where to go? Yeah.
Just a real simple one that has no spiritual kind of religious overtones behind it. This is the woman who got me and a number of other folks at the Henley Leadership Group into Microsoft. And it's a little 110-page book, and it's called Get Present by Sarah Harvey Yao, YAO. Simple strategies to get out of your head and lead more powerfully. So that's for just beginners, people who are getting their toes wet. But then the other thing that I find invaluable is going on retreat and just being silent. So, I've done 4 10-day silent meditation retreats through the Vipassana organization. And I find that's a really good reset. It levels you, you get to watch and see and hear all the noise in your head, and you can't act on it. You just got to sit and be with it and own it. So
4 10-day or 10 4 days?
I did 4 10 days. Yeah.
Wow. That's on my list to do a Vipassana.
Yeah. Yeah. And they do them right in near Fresno. There's one right near Fresno. There's a little gentler version up at Spirit Rock, a little bit north of San Francisco. The ones I did were up here. I'm in Portland, Oregon. We're in Washington. But the Vipassana organization is all over the world. And it's such an amazing, they charge nothing for the retreat. They give you a teacher, room, and board. And at the end, if you got value, you make a donation, period. And their organization keeps expanding. So it's a boot camp. It's not easy. It's a boot camp for establishing a meditative practice. And
great
one if you have one.
Great. Well, I'm excited about that. Well, Alan, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
And thank you for the contribution that you are in the world.
Thank you.
And to Microsoft, just to mention, because you did. And I will definitely be in touch with you. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everyone.